Morning people, welcome back to F Politics. I watched Keir Starmer's speech at Labour Party Conference 2025 so that you don't have to, and I'm going to give you what you need to know. Let me be clear, this is not a Keir Starmer hate channel for the sake of being a Keir Starmer hate channel. Because yes, I do believe that what Keir Starmer is doing is nowhere near good enough, and so he needs to be replaced by somebody like Andy Burnham as soon as possible. But what I'm giving you here is a fair analysis of his speech in the context of what his government has actually been doing. Let's get into it.
Conference, I welcome the new US initiative to bring peace to the Middle East. I strongly support efforts to end the fighting.
Last night, Labour members voted for Labour to take the official position that Israel is committing a genocide and that the UK must stop the sale of weapons of any kind to Israel. Trump's position, which you just heard Keir Starmer endorse, basically treats Israel as if they're the good guys. It asks everybody in Palestine to put their weapons down, meanwhile Israel can keep their guns metaphorically pointed at Palestine. And when Keir Starmer says the fighting must end, fighting is a weird term for genocide, because fighting implies that it's even on both sides, not one side trying to exterminate the other. So even though conference is supposed to be the place where Labour democratically decides what its policies are going to be, Keir Starmer seems to be completely ignoring his own party. But let's talk about the UK. Starmer's basically attacking everybody, saying that other politicians give voters false promises, saying things like,
all you need to do is listen to politicians who tell you there's a quick fix, a miracle cure, tax cuts that magically pay for themselves.
That's an attack on the Tories by referring to when Liz Truss crashed the economy by giving unfunded tax cuts to billionaires.
A wealth tax that somehow solves every problem.
See, there Starmer thinks he's attacking the left in general, but he's actually attacking 3/4 of the UK population, because that's who actually supports a wealth tax on the super rich. And the Institute for Fiscal Studies, which is the body that most governments actually quote to justify their tax plans, says a one-off wealth tax would actually be a good idea. So he's making fun of his own preferred economists and the majority of the UK population.
The Brexit lies on the side of that bus. Politicians who lied to this country, unleashed chaos, and walked away after Brexit.
Okay, that one obviously I'm down with, calling out the lies from 2016 that led us down the Brexit path. All good to me.
We can all see these snake oil merchants on the right, on the left.
Okay, it's a little fucked up for the leader of the supposedly left-wing party to be calling the people of the left snake oil merchants, especially when the examples you gave of the left are backed up by the majority of the UK population and the economists that you tend to use. But then he moves on to how this is affecting us as a society.
Politics has made them question Britain. And can you blame them? They've been nothing but patient. They lived through austerity, Brexit, COVID. That is why we must never find ourselves defending a status quo that manifestly failed working people.
Okay, so the examples you've given of the status quo that has manifestly failed working people are austerity, COVID, and Brexit. But earlier this year, you planned to cut welfare support for disabled people by £5 billion, which you yourself admitted would push 250,000 people into poverty. How is that not austerity? COVID, yeah, that's out of your hands. Nobody's defending a pandemic. But Brexit, you are now in control of, and you are choosing to reject the notion of going back into the EU single market and customs union. That is you defending a status quo that has manifestly failed working class people. Because the Bank of England is an organisation that the government relies on to control the economy, and they themselves are saying that Brexit is costing the average household £1,000 a year. So by not reversing Brexit, that is the status quo that Starmer is defending.
The global financial crisis is when we were exposed, when a new Britain should have been born.
And there he's right, because the reaction to the financial crash under David Cameron was to go for austerity, financially strangling the whole population. And that cost hundreds of thousands of lives of mainly working class people. The reaction should have been to protect working class people and make the rich pay for it. Instead, right now we have a prime minister who is making fun of the idea of taxing the super wealthy, while defending policies that he knows will push hundreds of thousands of people into poverty. Doesn't sound like you've learned the lessons that you're claiming to. Now, Starmer does talk about some of the stuff that I agree this Labour government has done, which has been good for the UK.
You protect us for renters.
The Renters' Rights Bill, I've been through it in my Labour documentary. It's not perfect, but it is very good.
Sick pay for the least well-off, fire and rehire finished, 0-hour contract scrapped.
The Employment Rights Bill, again, not perfect, but very good.
Extending free school meals, 100,000 children lifted out of poverty.
That and the breakfast clubs they're rolling out for primary schools, again, good stuff. But then we get to how he's going to deal with the rise of the far right and the conversation around immigration.
But if you incite racist violence and hatred, that is not expressing concern, it's criminal. And this party, this great party, is proud of our flags. Yet if they're painted alongside graffiti, telling a Chinese takeaway owner to go home. That's not pride, that's racism. If you say or imply that people cannot be English or British because of the colour of their skin, that mixed heritage families owe you an explanation, the people who've lived here for generations, raised their children here, built their lives here, working in our schools, our hospitals, running businesses, are our neighbours. If you say they should now be deported, then mark my words, we will fight you with everything we have, because you are the enemy of national renewal.
I actually don't have a problem with that. That was taking a stand. It's a bit late to the game, especially after 4 years of basically copying everything Nigel Farage has been saying about foreigners, but that's good. And he talks about his version of patriotism being inclusive and says,
fly those flags.
Again, hashtag take back Jack, I am down with that. But Starmer isn't going to stop Nigel Farage and the rise of the far right unless he significantly improves people's living standards and scraps our first past the post voting system that would allow Nigel Farage to take absolute power on a third of the vote. Which is why, despite what he just said, Starmer still needs to go. I'm Femi. Make sure you follow F Politics so politics doesn't F you. Have a great week.